Live with balanced news you can count on. This is News 4 at 4.
And still ahead on News 4 at 4, planting and maintaining cacti is not as easy as it looks. If you plan to plant any in the days to come, there are some things you need to know. Our 5-Minute Gardener is next. Time now to check in with our 5-Minute Gardener. Today's topic, cactus. Lots of folks think that all you have to do is stick it in the ground and forget about it. Well, cactus doesn't require a whole bunch of attention, but there are some things you need to know about. Our 5-Minute Gardener, Debbie Mounts from Harlow Gardens, fills us in.
Good afternoon. I'm Debbie Mounts, and I'm here today to talk about cactus care. Now, unfortunately, you cannot just throw cactus out in your garden and expect them to survive. You know, dig a hole and stick them in there and say you're on your own, buddy. It doesn't really work that way. It would be nice if it would. So I'm going to give you a few tips on how to care for your cactus in your garden. Now, I have some good samples here, some good examples here. And what you want to do with cactus, you don't really need to amend your soil like you do with some of your green shrubs and things like that. All you really need to do is to dig a hole at least twice as wide to give those cactus roots a nice soft place to reach for the water, but don't amend your soil and just pack it in around. And the other thing is, when planting, the one thing you want to do is wrap the top of the cacti to make it easier so you don't get poked. It's pretty pokey when you don't do that. You can wrap it with an old carpeting or sometimes layers of newspaper or an old towel or something like that to protect your hands from dealing with the cacti. So now, after you've planted it, I've got 4 different types of cacti here. After you've planted it in the summertime, you could go with almost no water, and you could count on monsoon water. But the question is, are your cacti going to look like you really want them to look? If you water them once a week in the summertime, particularly in pots, at least once a week, water them thoroughly in the summertime. They're going to be fat and thick, and they're not going to look shriveled and sunburned. In the wintertime, only once a month is all you really need to do then, because they're just kind of holding still. They're waiting for it to get warm again so they can feel happy. They don't really like the cold very much. The other thing I want to talk to you about is when you go to the nursery, is you want to ask the people at the nursery, like on this little cacti, this cacti is marked here showing that this is the south side of the cacti. When you plant it, you want to make sure that that still faces the south side so you can prevent any burning. All right? Then the last thing, real quickly, is for cacti, there is fertilizer. You use it maybe 2 or 3 times a year, and there is one specific for cacti. They have added calcium, which is something that cacti need. Okay, love your cacti, and they will love you back.
Okay, and Debbie joins us now. Now, I did not know that cactus could get sunburned.
Oh, they can really badly. Actually, well, like I was talking on the piece, they're generally acclimated, and normally when you go to the nursery, they can tell you which side is south side. But if you don't know, if you're going to plant cacti right now, you know, going into the full hot part of the summer, you want to protect that cacti. Okay. And one thing you can do is actually cover them. And what I brought today is you can actually, I know it doesn't look very good, but you can actually take just a little piece of cheesecloth and put it around the cacti for the first summer of its life. Okay. Then for next summer, it will have already acclimated, and you won't need to have it. And you can just leave it on there. The cheesecloth will kind of start to deteriorate after a while, but it'll just keep it from getting sunburned and it almost scabs over on the side that it sunburns. It just doesn't look very good.
Is that why sometimes you find that cactus have like styrofoam cups at the tips of them?
No, that's in the wintertime. That's for cold. Like on this cacti, those are specifically on columnar cacti. The part that's going to get frozen if it gets really cold is the top part of the cacti. So in the wintertime, you'll see driving around town, we have a huge cirrus at the nursery. We take old 1-gallon pots and we put it on each of the columns, protecting that tip from freezing, because it'll blacken and turn to mush.
And is that a good idea to do that with your kids?
It is a good idea to do on columnar cacti. Indeed, it is a good idea.
Okay, and then what about that white stuff that forms on the cactus?
Okay, that's the cochineal scale. It looks like little elves have come in the night and put a little tiny pieces of cotton all over your prickly pear. You see it particularly on prickly pear. Now what you want to do with that, when you first start to see it, you can take a hard blast of water, a really hard power spray, and get it off. If it gets to a point where it's getting kind of out of control, sometimes you can take a brush with like a very mild unscented dish soap and water and brush them off of the cacti. If not, then you're resorting to a systemic insecticide. But the interesting thing about the cochineal scale is this little scale has been used for centuries, included by the Mayans, for a red dye. It's a natural red dye. And actually it's coming back. There are farms in Mexico that actually harvest and encourage this scale because they give off this this beautiful red dye.
Wow, so it's actually a crop of some sort.
It actually is a crop. They have these little nests that they attach to the prickly pear, and the females come out on the cactus and attract the male, and you know what happens after that.
It's a family show.
It's a family show, yes, exactly.
All right, Debbie, thank you for your advice.
You're very welcome.
Always good.